The four horsemen of the apocalypse and your personality. Can we find a connection between the four horsemen of Revelation chapter 6 and the four main personalities within the world? In this video, I'm going to show you the amazing connection between the four horsemen of the apocalypse and your personality. If you've not subscribed yet to our channel, click on the subscribe button, on the bell and on all, and you'll receive the notifications when we upload new videos. If you want to donate to our ministry, you can use the banking details below if you're in South Africa, or use PayPal when you're somewhere else in the world. So there are four main personalities. You have the fiery red, which are your cholerics. That's Mr. and Mrs. Control. You've got your sunshine yellow. That's your sanguines, your Mr. and Mrs. Fun. Then you got your cool blue, the melancholics, Mr. and Mrs. Perfect. And then the earth green, the phlegmatics, Mr. and Mrs. Peacemaker. It is also interesting to note that in the book of Revelation, there are four living creatures. Now these four living creatures are linked to the four horsemen, and therefore I look at them first. The four living creatures have four faces. One of them is the eagle, which I believe points to the melancholic, the cool blue personality. Then you have the face of a lion, which points to the choleric personality. Then the face of a man points to the sanguine, or the Mr. and Mrs. Fun personality. And then the ox points to the green personality. When you study these four living creatures in more detail, and you study the four personalities, you see that they line up perfectly. This is God saying to us what His personality is like through the four living creatures. Now with that background, let's look at the four horsemen of the apocalypse. What does it represent? And does it point to each of the four personalities? Let's look at the first seal of the seven seals of the book of Revelation, and the first horse that is represented by the seal. Revelation 6 verse 1 and 2. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures, here we see the connection, saying with a loud voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. So here in the first horse, the first living creature says, "Come and see this horse." And I've studied this before, and I always wondered, why does the four living creatures in order in the book of Revelation chapter 4 say, "Come and see"? And I believe there's a reason for it. The four horsemen of the apocalypse points to the judgments that God allows to fall on His people when they turn away from Him. The turning away of God's people is explained within the seven churches of the book of Revelation. Especially the first four churches lines up with the first four seals of Revelation 6, which are the four horsemen. And the first church of Revelation talks about the gospel going to the people, but the people then putting the work of God before God. God says to the first church of Ephesus, "I see your work, etc., but you've left your first love." And this first horse is all about conquering and to conquer. And the first living creature saying, "Come and see this horse," is the lion. That's the red personality. That's the cholerics. They conquer and conquer. That's who they are. That's the first horse. Before I tell you about the rest of the horses, I want to tell you that you can get the complete seminar on DVD here in South Africa. All the links, if you're across the world or even in South Africa, for only $15. My friends, this powerful series, Your Personality and in the End of Time, is what I believe everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to hear this message, that God has created you unique in His image, and so many people have been liberated by hearing this information. But not only did God create you uniquely, as I explain in the second and third presentation in this series, when I go into the details of who you are, and I show you which app to use so that you can do the personality test and you can find out who you are, who your wife is, who your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your family, etc. is. When you hear this information, not only that, I go into it biblically and I show you that the Bible is saturated with this theme of the four personalities. There are four gospels, four living creatures, four horsemen, the first four churches of the book of Revelation, etc. There are so many things that I share with you, and I show you what God wants to do in your life to prepare you for the end. When I look at the four name changes done by God in the Bible, this complete series, including a bonus presentation by my wife for all the melancholics out there, is available now for only $15. Go to the PayPal donate link in the description below. You don't have to have a PayPal account to do this. You can use your debit card or your credit card. Type in donate $15. Then I will receive the donation on my side, and your email address will automatically be there because you have to fill in your email address, and I will send you the links wherever you find yourself in the world. Or if you want the DVDs in South Africa, please send me an email at thepreparation@gmail.com, because there are postage involved if you want the DVDs. But if you just want the links, just send me $15 and you will have access to this amazing life-transforming series. Just this past weekend, I did a presentation, one of them for the youth in Cape Town, South Africa. And a doctor tuning into this program said to me, or to my wife at least, this has really given me such important information. Now I understand myself. My friends, only $15. This will transform your life if you have access to this. Let's get back to this four horsemen of the book of Revelation. Revelation 6 verse 3 and 4. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, come and see. Do you see the order? The second living creature says to John, come and see the second horse. Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. This sword brings division. That's what it represents. If you read Matthew chapter 10, Jesus said, I have brought a sword as it separates, because you are peculiar, you are different from the world. And this red horse represents bloodshed. Bloodshed would come, persecution would come. And listen carefully to what this horse does. He takes peace from the earth. The living creature that says, come and see this horse, is the ox, which represents the green personality, the phlegmatics. They are the peacemakers. They hate conflict. And this horse brings conflict, bloodshed, and peace is taken away from this world. And we see that the judgments that God allows to come upon his people in this horse is upon the phlegmatics, because they have turned from God, as we see in the second church of Revelation, Revelation chapter 2, you can read it. What are the reasons that God allows this? But in the seminar, I go into much more detail. Then the third horse, Revelation 6 verse 5 and 6. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, this is the creature with the face of a man, representing the sanguines, the Mr. and Mrs. Fun, the yellow personality, come and see. So I looked, and behold, a black horse. And he who sat in it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. When you study the sanguine personality, when you study it in the Bible, you see that food is very important to them, as it represents being social, and they really like to eat. And trust me, friends, I've tested this with yellow personalities. They love to eat. And the man face also represents manhood or work, etc. And this horse has got everything to do with the daily labor and food being affected. Because the wheat and the barley represents the food the people ate. And a quart of a denarius is what the daily wage was for them to buy this food. And this is going to be affected under the black horse, which directly affects the yellow personality. Now, I'm applying the personalities to the four horsemen, but there are much more detail in regards to the four horsemen and what the historical setting of these horses are in the prophetic timeline. I'm just applying the personalities to it, and I see that it affects each of the personalities. Then the fourth horse, Revelation 6 verse 7 and 8. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, that is the eagle, which represents the melancholics, come and see. So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, by the beasts of the earth. The sword, the hunger, the beast, etc. represents God's judgments upon his people. And this horse clearly represents God's judgment fully poured out upon those who have turned away from him and not walking in his will. Now, it's not necessarily God pouring out the judgment, but rather him allowing the judgments to come so that his people can turn back to him, as seen in the fourth church of the book of Revelation. What we also can see from the melancholic perspective is that they are the type of people that wants to see judgments being poured out on those who have hurt them. They like it to see consequences or justice to be served, which is not always necessarily wrong, but it's also not necessarily right. But now God allows it to come upon those who have turned away from him. The book of Revelation is a fascinating book. The four horsemen of the apocalypse points to God, what he would do when the personalities turn away from him. And he allows these things to come so that they can turn to him and represent Christ's character as represented in the four Gospels of the New Testament. Because each of the four Gospels were written from the perspective of a personality. If you want more information about this, when I explain the four horsemen, the four living creatures, the four Gospels, the first four churches, the final four messages to the world in the book of Revelation, the four name changes done by God, and yes, my friends, even the devil changed names 4 times in the Bible. I show all of that, including who you are, in this complete series, Your Personality and the End of Time. And it's only $15. My friends, this supports our ministry when you buy this series. So if God impresses your heart, if you know this is what you need to hear, then only $15. Use the PayPal link below in the description. Pray for our ministry as we present these messages to people around the world, live seminars. Let's say you're saying, you know what, my church needs to hear this. You can also contact us. Send me an email at Renier@yourpersonality.online. Renier@yourpersonality.online, and I can then present the series on Zoom live for your local church. Contact us if that is what you want. May God richly bless you until we chat again.